Hello, everybody. My name's Joel,
My name's Hugh.
and today we're bringing you the Drafthouse Spotlight. This is going to be a series where we talk about people or companies in board gaming who will always put out a very, let's call it dependable product. You may not like every single item that they put out, but you can always tell that they're putting 100% in, and more often than not, they're going to deliver you a hit. Today we were going to talk about Stonemaier games.
Yes. Our series is going to be also include it could be anything. It could be a designer. It could be a company. It could be a item. But it's something that comes to our table, or we hear that it's being made, where we're like, we're going to get that. We're going to go to the store. We're going to make sure we acquire it.
Right. No real questions asked when, in particular, Stonemaier puts something out. Day it comes out, you're going to find us at the shop picking it up.
Yep.
Before we talk about Stonemaier, I think we should probably talk just a little bit about the man himself, Jamie Stegmaier, who is the owner and one of the founders of Stonemaier Games.
Yep.
You can regularly find him putting out videos on YouTube talking about game design, also sharing some of his favorite games and reasons why.
He does a mechanism video.
Yeah, he talks about the mechanics of games and a lot of insight to be had about him. So if you want to learn about how they come up with things to make it Stonemaier, follow Jamie on YouTube.
Yeah. He's also on BGG. If you have questions about games, it's always good because when you go into the forum board about, say, you had a question about Scythe or whatever, he'd probably be in there answering the question for you. So
typically, if we're going to talk about a company, we're just going to talk about the company themselves. But you can't really separate Jamie from Stonemaier. He's pretty much the face and also the designer on a lot of these games.
Yeah.
So, all right, what do we want to talk about?
we could talk about. Let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about viticulture.
All right.
I believe this was his first game. I believe. We're not doing a history of Stonemaier games, so we'll get things wrong if we try to do stuff history-wise. Although he just did a video talking about the history of Stonemaier games, so you can go watch that. So viticulture is,
like many of his games, is worker placement.
Right, and it's we have the Essentials edition of viticulture. It is it's a game about making wine. On one side of the board, you're making wine. On the other side of the board, you're selling the wine. It's a really solid worker placement game. It's in my top 100.
So worker placement, of course, usually follows a more Euro style, very math heavy involvement. Viticulture is not the exception to this rule. Same thing. You have to plan out your moves pretty carefully because you have to do them seasonally, right? So there's certain things are only available to you during certain phases of the game. So you have to sort of line yourself up that every turn you're effectively using the season that's in front of you.
Yeah, and for this size of box, man, plays 1 to 6 players.
There is a lot in that box.
There's a lot in this box. And that's one of the standpoints of Stonemaier games. The quality into each game.
The quality
is super high.
The quality and the quantity, right? You're not. Sometimes you get a giant box, right, and it costs you $80 for this game, and then you open it up and you realize it's like a deck of cards.
Yeah,
and a couple of chits, and you're like, why? What am I paying for here? Why?
Right.
Why did it come in this box? What was the reason? And the reason was they wanted to make more money.
Right.
Of course, everybody wants to make money, but you can do that while offering a solid product. Stonemaier, around these parts, known for giving you bang for your buck.
Right. Yeah. This is a solid game. The other thing is he makes a game. His games keep coming out. These games are all in print, basically.
Yeah.
You need to find one of these games, you're going to find it.
Yeah, we don't like the out of print much around here, right? Once something's available, especially if it's a popular thing, which most of these have had times where they were fairly popular, fairly high up on the BGG list, on the hot list, whatever. They can be hard to find at times because of their popularity, but eventually you can get your hands on them.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he has a Facebook forum group that talks about all of his games. I think each game has its own forum. I mean, we play a lot of games. It's hard for us to get a game to the table more than once, twice. Especially after all these games come out. But his games are games where, hey, let's pull that back out. It's a solid game. Everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, there's no game that I've played once, with exception of I had to go backwards to play Between Two Cities after I got through Castles.
Right.
Between Two Castles.
Of Mad King
Ludwig, which we played multiple times, and then we threw one extra in of Between Two Cities just to see where it was coming from.
Right. Because we were big fans of Mad King Ludwig.
Yeah.
So that's Viticulture. I think that, like I said, I believe that was his first game, and it is, I think it's in the top, probably in the top 100 games on BGG, and it's in my top 100. So that's Viticulture. So
let's, well, I do want to get to this one because it's strange.
You want to go to this one or you want to go to that?
But first,
okay, let's go.
I want to get to Charterstone.
Now I like this a lot better than you.
Well, I don't dislike it. It was a bit. It's hard to actually get started the right way with how. So let me explain Charterstone a little bit. It's another worker placement game, but you start out playing the simplest version of a worker placement game that you can find. But the thing is, this is also a legacy game. So as you play, things get introduced to the board that are there for future plays, that are there from the beginning of future plays. And the amount of complication, the amount of synergy that gets created in the game builds every single time you play. Now, as you were saying about the not liking it, I didn't like the first few plays of this game.
I think you liked it. I liked it way more than you.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The first few plays of the game are really on the simple side. It's almost sort of like a really good way to introduce somebody to worker placement. If it's like one of their first games kind of thing, right? Like, very simple, very straightforward. You got like 3 actions basically, and you're just going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Over and over again, getting out of the way. But then these like weird swerves come at you from in the book. Like, you complete a certain task or you get a certain item, and you don't even know really what it is yet because you have to go dig it out from somewhere.
Right.
And
you create the rule book as you go.
Yeah, so the rules are just this big empty basically page. It's like, put sticker X here, put sticker Y over here. But you don't have those at first.
Right.
You don't actually put them in and start using those rules until you've gotten to that like stage.
Right.
Which means the rule book actually changes from game to game because you don't put them all in there in the first game. So again, it just builds and gets more complicated and more advanced. And once you're done, in theory, your board is not going to look like your neighbor's board, right? You're going to have a slightly different game. They're all going to do sort of the same thing, but you're going to have a slightly different looking game.
And then he also makes a recharge pack.
Yeah.
So if you completed the game and say you were going to play your game again, you can actually put the recharge pack, fill this box again, and play again. Or hand it off to somebody else and have them play with the recharge pack or whatever.
And again, with the bang for your buck, this game is heavy. Yeah. It's not going to cost you any more, really, than just about any other worker placement game of the same size.
Yeah.
But again, there's so much more happening, for the building.
And again,
of this game.
the design of the game, it's super streamlined. It looks great. The pieces, the components are immaculate.
Yeah, very good. He's hooked himself up with some good artists over there. Stonemaier is, and like fitting, right? Sometimes you get that stuff where it's like, you get this artist who's really good, but the style they have just doesn't fit for the game. Like, no, they've clearly got the right person for this one. sort of a good segue to Euphoria in that
Yeah.
the like propaganda style poster work for this game, and then Scythe, the kind of dirty, quick, painting-esque history going on there. Yeah. No,
I don't know. Charterstone might be my favorite game that he makes. I really liked it. But okay, you want to go to Euphoria?
well, no, it's not. It's not the best game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Euphoria either. We're gonna go.
Okay.
Euphoria. I thought this was his first game.
Yeah.
Because I don't do history. So we got to this one because they were putting out an expansion recently.
Yeah.
Which this was a fairly old game at the time that they came out with the expansion, right? So like, not forgetting about their old product, right? Again, they keeping
Brought
everything
something
like,
out
relevant.
fresh for a game that had been sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, and not, again, not a lot of people talking about it at that time. Probably more so because they had come out with such big titles after that. Scythe and Wingspan recently has been crazy. But so we got to this game pretty late, and I don't know how you felt about it. I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's a weird... It's a worker placement game literally about workers.
Yeah. And a lot of different avenues to choose which direction you're going to go in to try to win the game.
Yes. Plenty of places to go, like things to do. Plenty of ways to like...
This is also one of the games where I like it better with more players.
Yes.
I like it with... give me the max amount on this.
Yeah, because it's one of those ones where the interactions like matter, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in games with worker placement, it should always matter, but if you don't have enough players, sometimes that's like not really a thing, and that's then again you're playing more of like a solitaire game, right? Yeah. And these games were definitely not meant to be played.
Yeah,
you can play in the low ends. You can play at like 2 and 3, right?
I mean,
and they'll work, but
most
like
of the games play at 1.
I was 2 in this one, but lost everything I was going to say there. Why are we doing this all in one go? All right, cut that. Here's what I was saying. A bunch of these games can be played at lower counts. They'll still work, but like there's also clearly that thing where it was made to be more interactive and have more people. And it's, sometimes you can't get 6 people to the table, and that's fine. Like, so the game still works at a lower count, but clearly made for and like the best at the higher counts, and that's what makes a lot of these worker placement games really go.
Right. Yeah, I definitely like this one at the highest player count.
Whereas, like, Charterstone, we were basically playing 2-player the entire time. Because once you started at a certain player count, you weren't locked in, but it made it much, like, it was definitely designed to keep going with the same group.
And because it's a longer game, I mean, you and I just played it late at night. And just, I mean, it's easier just to keep going than to try and bring somebody else in.
Yeah. But Euphoria, like... I'm surprised that there's only really one big game that's a worker placement game that's like sort of literally about the workers that are being placed. I guess something like Dungeon Pets is sort of about the workers itself, but just like this fully sort of realized worker thing going on here. And again, the art being
totally
silly
nailed.
Perfect for like
nailed.
What they were doing.
Yeah, and the components again are great.
Alright, I don't want to talk about it. There's more games to talk about here.
Okay.
None of this.
So what do you want to talk about now? Do you want to go both of these? You want to go...
I think we need to talk, probably...
Okay. This one has the expansion in it, so it doesn't quite fit, but...
So, Mad King Ludwig, the other Mad King Ludwig games, those are not made by Stonemaier Games. Those are separate.
Made by Bezier Games.
Separate company made by Bezier Games. So they had the idea of using the system that they've built for Between Two Cities here and putting the sort of flavor of Mad King Ludwig on top of it, which was great because I think they made a really good system here.
Yeah.
But I think it looks kind of bland.
Yeah.
again, it sort of fits like what they
Right.
made.
Right.
It just wasn't quite up my alley.
Right.
But it was clearly working well because when you do it over here, in the super colorful,
Right.
crazy Mad King Ludwig style, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I also probably, I came at these two backwards, right? I started here,
Right.
played this, and then I played this one. And maybe this one feels a little, like, lesser than Between Two Castles, because it was made first, right?
Yeah.
This is the
Because
improved edition.
you played this second.
And I have a thing personally where I'm like, once you've made the improved version, like, I don't want to play the old version.
Right.
If this one works better, like, this is where you go.
Right. And this, again, is a game that plays better at higher player count.
Yep.
Because you're playing in between players, building a castle. This one a city, this one a castle.
Yeah, so if you haven't played these games, you're building two cities or two castles at the same time, but you're getting help from the person that's on your left and your right. So you two are building a castle or a city together, right? So your score is actually based off of the worst of your two cities
Right.
or castles. So it's co-op in that you have to build the two together with the people around you, but there's still only one winner.
Yeah. Ingenious. It's good. I had played this first. And again, yeah, it does have a little bit of a, ordinary vibe to it. I'm not going to say bland, but I'm going to say ordinary.
Right.
But,
It's built that way.
right.
Though.
And then this one came out, and, I mean, if you've seen this one, the player trays and everything in here are just, like, super over the top and just amazing presentation.
There's also like an evolution inside the boxes of the Stonemaier games, where, say, like Euphoria here is pretty standard sort of layout, like you would find in a box like this. But by the time you start getting into these later ones, like Between Two Castles or Wingspan, which I'm sure we'll get to here, like everything's a sort of like perfect fit. Like it's all designed.
The game trays and everything, it all fits super nice.
They're not just
in
designing the game when they get to work on these things. Like they're putting every aspect together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. All right, so we want to go biggin'? Okay.
Let's get the big boy out of the way.
Okay, so this is the Scythe Legendary Box, because I had all the expansions to fit in here. Now, we haven't played all these, so this isn't in here, because it won't fit in here yet until it's played. But everything else is in here. From Afar, Wind Gambit, all that stuff is in here, and this is a great box, and this art is cool.
Yes. So Scythe is where they finally took a break from making worker placement games, only to make one of the best like area control games ever. I guess that's not my personal like opinion. This game is highly rated on like everybody's list for everything.
Right. People love this game. This is what you would call. I would assume you would call this Stonemeier's. I'm assuming moneymaker.
The cash cow.
The cash cow, because he made. There's a lot of expansions to it, and they've all been good. The thing that always amazes me about this game is it super looks like it's an over-the-top fighting game. Like, cool, let's play that.
You're like in the war-torn European countryside.
And it's not.
With, like, crazy mechs made out of, like, converted tractors.
Right. It is a strategy area control game.
And, yes, fighting is actually mostly a giant detriment. Like, you have to be getting a lot of benefit out of it in whatever your move is for it to make it worth it at all.
Yeah.
So oh man, when this came out, I didn't care about it at all. Let me take that one back. When this first came out, because I thought it was a big giant fighting game, I was super excited, and then I played it, And I didn't think I cared about it at all.
Right.
That's because I was still thinking that it was a big fighting game.
Right.
And once you get around the fact that it's not like...
Right.
It's the fighting game and like you build a big army to scare people off and leave you alone.
Right.
It's the walk softly and carry a big stick, the game.
I mean, every once in a while in the game, you can sneak around somebody and steal a bunch of resources in a fight.
Yeah. So you pull this thing out of the box, though, the original box, and what you have is, first off, a giant board that barely fits on anybody's tables.
Yeah.
And a bunch of minis that are all super nice looking. And everything's very cool, except for most of your resources are like just your normal shit, right? Yeah. But there's only so much you can put in a base box, right? And they didn't charge you, $100, $150 for this game. Was it $60?
I think they raised the price after a while.
But the original price,
it was a steal.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, the amount of stuff just purely in the box.
And we have to say, he did have a deal with, I don't remember the name of the company, but they created resources to replace all the resources in this game.
There was a specific set of resources basically designed for this game to replace those tokens that were in the box.
And that has become a thing in board gaming. Blinging your game out.
I mean, there's always some of it, but I think right around those specific ones was when it became like this big, like, oh, I can really up the ante on a game.
I can really make my game look really cool on the table.
Because you don't have to just pull random parts from places to, like, build it. Some people will actually build specifically for your game.
Right. So, and then we'll mention one other game that should be over here, which is My Little Scythe. Which was a game invented by a guy and his daughter. He basically took Scythe and made it kid-friendly. So in that game, you're fighting for friendship and having pie fights. Again, that didn't go over that great at our table because,
But like thematically, it was amazing.
Thematically, it was amazing.
Like we bought a copy on principle, basically. Right. Like, no, this looks too good and feels too right to not be somewhere here in the shelf.
But for a younger group of players, it would be the hobby game I would use.
Oh yeah,
to get them involved in area control.
That is the way to trick your daughter into playing area control board games with you.
Yeah, and so there's My Little Scythe, and
it was just a joke. It was just a joke somebody had, and
it was My Little Ponies,
right, but mixed with Scythe,
right.
And it was just a sort of like a silly thing, and they went out of their way to actually make it,
right. And because whatever Hasbro or somebody didn't want to get involved, they just created their own animals for the game, and it's solid. And again, it looks great, the art's great. The little miniatures that you have in the game are awesome. So Scythe it's going to be one of those games that is going to be an evergreen. It's going to be around forever. This is one of those games where, generations from generations are going to be like, hey, have you played Scythe? So, I mean, I think Stonemaiers can, sit happily knowing that, this thing's going to be around forever. And I like the fact that I love companies when they put out a bunch of expansions, they come out with a box.
Again, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you start with sort of we're just making our insert, the generic insert for a box, and then they start to, everything fits really well together in Charterstone, but then everything fits really, really well together in between two castles, even though it wasn't like a spacing thing, it was just like making everything...
We're just going to make it nicer.
Right, and then you get up to like Scythe where they're doing like the custom boxes.
Yeah, and this box is awesome. Again.
So everything about the company is sort of like evolving upward.
And so, like between two cities where Stonemaier Games worked with other designers, after he got done with that, he got his second game with a different designer. So we get the game that everybody was going crazy for.
Wingspan. Wingspan is a game about birds. You're a bird watcher.
Yeah.
You're trying to watch as many birds as you can. It's mostly just set collection.
I mean, it's got the mechanism where you drive across your board, and then you pick what you're going to do, and then you get to drive backwards and do all the powers that your birds do.
Right. So, again, with like starting with just the basic stuff, the box, right? Box is great. Components are all like made to fit properly,
Right.
and be used in the game. A lot of their inserts now are actually just pull out pieces that are a part of the game.
Yeah.
And this thing has a dice tower that's
It's a bird feeder.
A bird feeder in it. We were just working on videos earlier where we were talking about, having these extra things in games, but you have to buy them separately. But it's like if you made such a good game, right? If you really had the confidence in it, this stuff should be in the box.
Yeah, put it in the box.
And Stonemeier's doing it. It's in the box. It's ready to go. And talking about the fact that their games will always be available. Wingspan was the ridiculously hot commodity when it came out.
But nobody thought it was going to be, and that's why it disappeared quick.
Yeah, so vendors under-ordered,
Mm-hmm.
and then it disappeared, and a lot of people got angry.
Well, because if I came to you and I said, hey, how many copies of a bird-watching game do you think you're going to sell?
None.
1, 2, and then everybody wanted it. The power of the SM.
Yeah.
Power of the Stonemaier, man.
But I know a lot of people got... I know there was a bit of contention online with like Stonemaier, the company, for just not having enough out, and it's like they're not the biggest company in the world.
Yeah,
they can only print and make so many games as they can. But again, the game's not going away. They'll keep making it as long as people.
At some point, you're going to be able to get your hands on a copy.
They're going to keep making it until everybody that wants a copy has a copy.
Right.
And maybe 10 years from now, nobody's talking about Wingspan, and then suddenly an expansion shows up.
Right.
Because that's the kind of thing that they do.
And that's one of the things when I was playing this game and I was looking at the bottom part where it talks about the birds at the bottom of every card, I think it says like their location of where they normally are from or something. And I was looking to see if there was a location where they didn't have a lot of birds from that location. And I was thinking, well, there's the expansion right there. East Asian birds, whatever. But this is an amazing game. Again, just comes together.
Yeah.
Theme, the way it looks, the components, everything, mechanisms, all work perfect.
So if you're looking for worker placement, right? Then he's clearly one of the guys to go to. But as it turns out, if you're looking for area control games, these are the guys to go to. And if you're looking for a set collecting game,
right?
Well, it turns out Stonemaier might be the people to go to.
If you're looking for a legacy game,
they're branching out past that like original. They're startups, and as it turns out, they're pretty good, and they work pretty continuously on their games until they have something solid to put in front of you. And that, tying back into Jamie's count, if you follow his YouTube, he was talking about this game specifically, like before it came out, talking about how they were building it and what they were testing on it. Their new game that they're working on now,
Tapestry.
He puts up a video diary talking about the struggles or hardships of making the game and things that they tried and tested and like letting you know that like the work's being put in, and that's why the second that game's available, there'll be a copy somewhere in here.
Yeah, I would like to see Stonemaier Games make a party game. Just get into a category he hasn't done yet.
I want a weird party game about bird watching in the Scythe universe. Right?
You go.
You're trying not to get murdered by tractor mechs while you bird watch.
So again, the spotlight video for us is just to put a spotlight on a company or a person. And this one, it seems to be a spotlight on a person and a company.
Well, they're kind of the same thing. I mean, you can't pull Stegmaier away from Stonemaier and have it be the same thing. He's responsible for a lot of the actual titles here in front of you. It's not like they're just picking, all right, that's a good game, let's make that for somebody.
I also think this won the Spiel this year, I think.
I don't pay attention to that.
I think it did. I think Elizabeth Hargrove and Jamie won. I think they got a Spiel out of this. So it always makes us interested when we hear he's got something coming out. I'll watch his Sunday video where he talks about mechanisms and stuff. I find it interesting. But yeah, the amazing amount of components and time put into each game. Since, I mean, I don't remember what year Viticulture was put out, but 2015. So, I mean, and then I think this is the second edition. I think Viticulture is the only game they actually redid. Right. There was a regular version, and then they came out with the Essential Edition. But you're talking in 4 or 5 years, they've only put out, really, this many games. And, they put out some expansions to Scythe along the way, but they definitely do their due diligence, and they do their, I would assume, a lot of beta testing to make sure that they have...
if they're not doing a lot of beta testing, they're getting really, really lucky along the way.
Yeah. Because, it's pretty amazing. And when you go to a gaming store, like our big one over here, and people talk about Scythe, and they'll talk about Wingspan, and, and Viticulture still gets talked about a lot. So when he announces something like Tapestry's coming out, everybody gets excited. So hopefully this time, though, there will be like 50,000 copies or something created. Because the shortage on this one, we heard a lot of people talking about it.
Hopefully all of you vendors out there have learned your lesson. Yeah. Doesn't matter what they put the game out.
Over order.
What they put it out about. Yeah, just get copies.
Yeah, just get copies. It'll sell. So, I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I mean, it's just, like I said, we just wanted to put a spotlight. We're going to do one of these videos every couple weeks, spotlighting a company or a person or a product that you can trust as a person who has to spend their dollars on games. It appears to be 200 to 300 brand new games every week. It's ridiculous. And figure out what game is good and something you can trust, where if you put your $50, $60 on it, you're going to get a good product. This company, for me, I give you the guarantee, somebody at your table is going to like the game that he created.
Confidence is high in the Stonemaier camp.
Yeah. So our spotlight on Stonemaier, go out and grab some of his games if you haven't played all of them. Like I said, Euphoria is probably one that a lot of people I don't think have played.
I went back and looked, and it was very, very popular when it first came out, right? But the thing is, I don't want to say necessarily better, but they just put out bigger and more attracted to products since then. So yeah, it's fallen to the wayside. But if it was his only game out there, yeah, people would probably be talking about Euphoria.
Right. It's really good. And if you want a legacy game, if you have a family or something, I really love Charterstone. And it can be played pretty much all ages, I feel. Because somebody just has to be able to read the story and stuff while you're pulling the stickers off and making the rules. So, and then everybody loves Scythe. So,
if you're a big fan of the way Between Two Cities works, go with that. If you want the big, colorful, grandiose version of it, Between Two Castles, awesome. Also, Bezier Games. We haven't talked about them yet, but I'm sure at some point we will have something to say about them as well.
Yeah.
So, two great tastes that taste great together.
There you go. All right. Well, we will catch you next week or so, or 2 weeks from now, on another Spotlight.
See you then.